And Redux, it's Simon here. Welcome back to the Hermit's Cave. Lovely to see so many people in the chat already. So I won't spend a lot of time going through each and every person, but lovely to have you all here joining us for this catch up. I'm delighted to welcome today's guest, which is the fabulous Julianne Victoria. Lots of people know her. She has a very popular channel. So without further ado, let's say hi to Julianne.
Hi, everyone.
Can I just check firstly? Do you prefer Julie, Julianne, or Julianne Victoria?
Julie is what people call me in my everyday life, so that's totally fine.
That's
but
good.
Some people just call me Victoria, and okay. I mean, it's my name, so that's Julie's great. Yeah.
Julie. Okay, well, I'll call you Julie then.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, great. So thank you for coming on and spending some time with me today.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very popular one. There's a lot of people here already.
Wow. So chat. It's full.
Yeah. Have you got the chat open? Can you see people?
I can see the chat. Yeah, tons of people.
Yeah, which is really nice. So as I always say to people in the chat, if you do have any sort of any questions or comments, I'll put a reminder up at the bottom. If you can put them in capitals for me, it doesn't matter with StreamYard whether you tag or not, because it doesn't highlight, unfortunately, in StreamYard like it does YouTube. So capitals are best, and I'll try and make sure that I get your questions asked as well from Julie. So, Julie, you've been on YouTube, is it like six years, I think?
6.5-ish years or so. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Wow. So one of the kind of original people, or as I like to think, I found the community about 4.5 years ago, and there wasn't many people talking about tarot and things then. And you was originally Through the Peacock's Eyes, weren't you?
Well, originally, so I have a blog that I've had for 11.5 years. That's a long time. And the blog's name is Through the Peacock's Eyes. And then originally when I started my YouTube channel, it was just Julianne Victoria. And then, I don't know, a few years ago, I thought, well, I realized I sort of branded myself without even trying, because of my Instagram, all the social media, and Through the Peacock's Eyes, and I self-publish under Through the Peacock's Eyes Press. So I thought I would add that on. So I added that to my YouTube channel. And then recently, just because like in lives and in chats, people are like, it's such a long name. People like have to take a breath. I decided, well, I'm just going to take that off. The Peacock's Eyes are there. I've actually been trying to change the banner on my channel page, but I'm unable to for some reason. It just glitches. So I was like, well, that's okay. I'm just going to take that off because it's too long and just be Julianne Victoria, because people know I'm connected to that. So
yeah. So what was the original concept of Through the Peacock's Eyes? What was that? What was that about? What was the thought?
Well, my blog's focus, one is originally it was to put my writing out there and to practice writing and getting feedback from people, but also to because the tagline is like Insights for Spiritual Living, to show people from all different backgrounds, whether they're Christian or Buddhist or atheist, that you can live what's considered, a good life and strive to, better yourself, to understand yourself better, to have better relationships through any of those avenues or those eyes of perspective. And so that's why I like Through the Peacock's Eyes. And the name just came to me spontaneously when I started the blog. Like the day is like you go in and you set it up, and I'm like, I don't know, that sounds good, and then it stuck. So,
it does sound good.
Yeah.
I mean, your channel as well, and I love that. And was talking. Who was I was talking to a few weeks ago now? I thought it was Lou Valcourt, who again has been on YouTube for many years, and changed her channel name and now just goes by her own name. And she was saying that kind of freeze in terms of being able to reveal things that are important to her without being pigeonholed into a particular genre or just about divination, because she's into fashion, rock music, and everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, your channel is such a rich mix of tarot, Lenormand, astrology, herbs, rituals. But in fact, you tell us what's if somebody doesn't know your channel yet, and they're here and they want to check you out, what could a subscriber find when they come to your channel?
A lot of things. So I guess the most things I post about are tarot and astrology, because it was a weekly tarot reading. Now it's bi-weekly, twice a month, just because I'm trying to find time to write more. I do new moon and full moon astrology readings, and I often do a tarot or oracle card reading with that. And it's both Western astrology and Vedic astrology. I practice both, or I study both. Those two words go hand in hand for me. And then I'm also an herbalist. I didn't become an herbalist to like have a shop or make herbs for other people. It was more for me, because I do have a background as a healer. I became a massage therapist in 2000 and have studied many healing modalities since then. So I do distance Reiki as well. So there is some healing stuff, mostly the herb stuff. Some of it is in my discussion playlist. But this past spring, I started doing what's called my Magic and Spirituality in Everyday Life playlist. And those are like fun little creative videos I can do where I'm not talking, and it's just showing herbs and things you can do sometimes for like a magical or spiritual purpose, or just what I consider as magical in my life. And so I love sharing that. And then the vlogs and discussions can be all sorts of topics on anything spiritual. So anything through those peacock eyes of spirituality or religion or just philosophy, even psychology or a psychological element. So it's very broad, but mostly it's tarot and astrology for sure.
Yeah. I don't know, that was sort of your foundation, your basis as well, wasn't it, when you started your channel? So and it always interests me, because I think in the 3.5 years that I've been on YouTube, it has changed so much. What was TarotTube, or the spiritual community that we know, like almost 7 years ago to how it is now?
Okay, so it's interesting. When I started my channel, the reason I started it was because in late 2013, that seems so long ago now, at that time I was I was taking care of my mom who had Alzheimer's, and I was, at some point hoping to move somewhere else. And I was just like, okay, if I want to do this, building a local client base is great with whatever little time I had. But if I want to move, I need to be able to take my work with me. And I thought, how can I show people what I do, put out there what I do more? And I kept hearing in my mind's ear, because it's not like a voice out here, start making videos. And I thought, no way. I'm not going to make videos. What? And I kept hearing, start making videos. So it took quite a few months. And eventually I was like, okay, I'll do that. Because I used to do like a Tarot Tuesday on my blog, and I would do free readings that way. But that mostly just got people wanting free readings. I didn't really like build client base. But I was like, okay, I'd love to also put stuff out there that's free for people who need some guidance, who can't afford a reading. And so that part of it, sort of like, what can I give to the community, or what can I give to the public? I was like, okay, so that sort of helped me get out and start the channel, because I'm actually quite shy. And I often say I'm a happy hermit, very private, which people probably wouldn't guess. But so it was really hard for me to start. And that's why I was like, no way. I wasn't listening to that voice, even though I was like, it's probably right. And so I did. And I started my channel by doing readings. So I did like monthly tarot readings for all signs, and like Vedic new moon readings for all signs. Like I did a ton of videos of readings, free readings. And that took a ton of time. So I was doing that, but I did not realize that there was like a community out there. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if there even was, because I wasn't watching a whole lot. I was just putting a ton of content out. And I did that for quite a few years. And then when I got pregnant, I stopped, because honestly, I was just too sick to make videos. The cards made me sick too. And so I was like gone from YouTube for almost a year, I think. And then I came back. And I slowly came back. I just did like a weekly reading. I had a lot of recovery to do. I've even just recently recovered. And then about a year after that, I started watching more videos, and I realized, oh, there's this community. And I think I came across Becca's channel first, whatever it was called back then, Becca Tarot Night Owl or something. I came across that, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I'd like click on someone else. And then I started to realize, all the same people are commenting. And I'm like, they know each other? And so it's sort of slowly like, I kind of like slowly discovered, I was like, did this exist before? And I'm like, I don't think these channels were there before. And I'm like, so it changed in that sense to me, but my perspective might be because I didn't watch a whole lot originally, that there wasn't a community and then there was.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it's like, it has changed and evolved just as my channel changed and evolved too. So that's my perspective of it, which could be totally different from someone else's, but it's like, I was just like, what? People engage? I had no idea. And so, I've been kind of getting to know people over the last couple of years.
And I think you're right. It's going to be everybody's different perspective, but people that I have spoken to who were on YouTube around that time period, probably 8 to 10 years, I think it's just a case, like you said, people are just creating their stuff, and then somebody happens to comment saying, oh, I've just seen somebody mentioned you on, and then they look and they're like, oh, someone's mentioned me. And then before you know it, it just organically grows, doesn't it, into this network, into this web that we now call, an online community. And I just wanted to pick up as well, because you said something that so many of us say, and myself included, about being quite shy and introverted. Why is it, Julie, do you think that a medium such as this appeals to people who are quite introverted or shy?
I think because you could stay home and you can control when you put something out there, when you come on live, or when you leave a comment. You're not like in some sort of uncomfortable party situation where you don't want to be. If you don't want to be there, you just turn the computer off or do something else. I think it gives us that freedom to be ourselves when we're feeling like it. And when we feel like just, staying home reading a book, we don't have any obligation to go somewhere. Yeah.
And I often think back to when I was first encouraged to, because I did it the other way. I found that there was a community first. By looking up certain decks that I wanted to buy, I realized that there was 2 or 3 options for this one particular deck. And then, so I'd watch a few to get a bit of a broad balance. And then I'd hear people cross-referencing, I'm doing a response to so-and-so, and I'm thinking, hold on a minute, like they know each other. So then I started becoming a lurker, and then a contributor in comments, before being encouraged to do it. But that first sort of initial, can I do this? Because I'm so introverted and I'm so quiet. Even, I am somebody in my professional life that has to stand up and train people on things.
Oh, wow.
But I hide behind the fact that I think anybody can do that if they've got the knowledge and the knowledge really of whatever it is that they're talking about and delivering. So I think that helped, because I was already in a position where, so I just thought, right, well, I'm going to, for a few months, really study the tarot, even though I claim to have been working with it for 30 years, off and on. I still didn't feel that I was qualified enough to come onto this platform where there was all these people who just, had oodles of knowledge. And I was like, well, what can I contribute? But you realize, don't you, that we're all cogs in a wheel and we've all got something to contribute.
Oh, yeah. We all have something to bring to it. I mean, we're all different people. We have different experiences with tarot or anything else. And we've learned different things from it through our practice with it. So, yeah, I think everyone has something to bring to it, even newbies, newbies out there, because their minds are fresh about it. And they may see something that I've never noticed in a card or in a deck or something. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd love to find channels where people are just starting out on their journey. It's a little bit of nostalgia there, but I also love it because it's a fresh perspective, and they're learning as they go, and they see things that, like say, we might miss. So talking of contributing, or a creator, you're a creative person. You've already said that you're a writer, but you've also created some decks. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about how they came to be? Okay,
so I just realized it's actually, I think today, 2 years ago today, I published my first deck.
Oh, wow.
And in these past 2 years, I've created 7 decks.
7 decks.
And I just went through that this week and I'm like, really? Because part of me thinks I don't get much done. So if you don't know anyone out there, I have an almost 3-year-old. So she's whom I'm with most of the time. And especially, you know, with COVID, there's no preschool. So I have, you know, most of my work is done on the weekends. And that includes creative work. And I think in my mind, I'm not getting much done because I have this whole like idea, all these ideas and notes and everything of all the things I want to do. So it gave me some perspective. I'm like, okay, I get stuff done. So the first deck I created was, I brought them all out, my Fine Lines deck. And this actually might be my most popular one. So I'll show you some if you're not familiar with it. So there are things like private versus secretive. It's really a shadow work deck. Surrender versus giving up, responding versus reacting, and so on. There's actually 11 different backgrounds. And this idea came about, it's probably been 12 years now. I think it was 10 when I came out with the deck. I was going to write a book on it about those fine lines. And then I sort of just set it aside. And then when I came back to it, I don't know, a few or more years ago, I was like, you know, this might work as a deck. And then, you know, life happened, got married, had a baby, blah, blah, blah. And then I came back to it again. And I was like, okay, let's make this. Let's see if I can make this. I'd done research on all the self-publishing platforms and the options I could do or wanted to do. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make a deck and just see what it's like the process of making the deck. And so I made it. And I was like, you know what, this was really fun. And eventually, like, was it 6 months after that, I made a workbook for it, which is basically kind of like the book, but they're prompts and stuff for the deck. But after I made that, I was like, oh, this is really fun. It's a little creative thing I can do while my baby's sleeping. And and then I did my Oracle of the Fool, which is a round. Let's see. It's round, so I always confuses me when I'm holding it up to the camera. So it's a round deck. Oh, thank you. And the titles aren't necessarily in the middle because it's round, but you get the idea of that. So this was just a thoughts experiment, basically, that I had. I did also make a journaling guidebook, not a guidebook, it's more of a journaling book with prompts for it. It was a thought experiment brainstorming session I had as I was working on my Medieval Sigils Tarot. Because I was like, okay, and I really brainstormed like the meanings of all the cards, you know, across various systems, and then like my own experience with it. And that was just part of my brainstorm. And I was like, this is kind of cool. This would make like a cool little like journaling type of personal self-discovery thing. So I just made that because it was fun to make another deck.
It was so cool how you described that though, because you just stripped everything back with that, didn't you? You know, there's no images, no words, just the sigils for you to work with.
Yeah. So the sigils, pull some of these out here. Yeah. So I wanted to make something abstract. So I had this, I like to challenge myself. And like, as my creativity opened up more and more, as I was recovering, I was like, how can I make an abstract deck? How can I make something that's like not words, not keywords, not traditional images? And I came up with sigils. So it's getting bright here. Hopefully that's not too much glare. All sigils, a lot of it based on the Astrological Association, but I also used 3 different scripts. I used runes, I used Ogham, Celestial Alphabet, and the other one's not ringing a bell in my head, obviously.
I love the background.
So I did different scripts. Oh, stray cat, where can we see it? Go to my website, juliannevictoria.com. and go on the decks page and just click whatever picture you're interested in. It will take you to everything. That's the easiest way. Yeah. Or you can scour my channel for all the videos, but it's easier. Just go to the website and the decks page. Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to, excuse me, I wanted to see if I can make something abstract. Because I love so for those who are familiar with astrology, I'm a Pisces moon. And like, one, that's part of my shyness, even though I'm a Leo sun. I think the Leo sun helps me to actually be present, like put things out there. But my Pisces moon is like, that's where I was like, no, I'm not making videos ever. So it's a balance. Oh, thank you, Jen. Yeah, so now I lost track where I was. Yeah, so I want to go into the abstract. I want to get deep into the psyche. I want to like dig down into things. And so the Medieval Sigils Tarot, if you work with these sigils, you know, you could pick out the elements of the sigils out of it, or you can just work with the image and see what comes up for you. What gets stirred up? What emotion comes up? Do you see it and get angry? Do you see it and get happy? Do you see it and like, I don't know, feel frustration, you know? And then it's to work with that. What does that mean for you? But still, the cards contain the essence of the meaning of the cards. And a challenge was to not put me in the sigils.
Okay.
It's tarot. It's not my sigils in the tarot. It's what is the soul of each card? Like, this is the star. What is the soul of that? Without any reflection of me, the creator, in it. So that was a challenge.
Wow. Yeah. And then from there, you did a deck of just words, which was your poetry. Was that the next step?
Yeah, actually, before Medieval Sigils, oh, what's the time frame here? Before I was in the process of making the Medieval Sigils Tarot, but the next deck I created was Children's Tarot.
Oh, okay. Oh, lovely.
It's a major only deck, and it's for kids, so kids can understand tarot. It is RWS based. Pull these out here, and I designed it so that kids could use this. I'll say age 2 and up, even teenagers, but even adults. I know Masha has this and loves it, and they could transition to a full tarot deck and know the meanings, at least of the majors already. So, so that's the world. I did rename the cards, as you can see.
Oh, wow.
And it is a diverse deck, but this is like where I grew up. I grew up in San Francisco, California. So like my world has always been full of diverse people of all different backgrounds. So I wanted to make sure that was in the deck, so all children felt included. So I'll just flip through the whole thing because there's only 22.
And where was the artwork? Is this kind of stock artwork or? No,
so this is the only deck where I hired someone to help create it. So I have my sketches, but to get the look that would appeal to kids, like I can draw, but I wouldn't say I'm an artist, although other people might argue that. I did commission a graphic designer to turn my sketches and ideas into these images.
Wow.
So, yeah. So that's the only one I actually hired someone to help out with, because I was like, I can't make them look how I want them to look. So
that's a really kind of interesting creative process, though, isn't it? For you to sketch it out and say to somebody else, bring that to life. You know, my idea, bring it to life, and you was happy.
I actually found someone who actually was familiar with what tarot was, because I went through Upwork, I think. It used to be called something else, but I think it's Upwork now. And, you know, I just put my ad out there, like looking for a designer to help with a deck of 22 cards. I think I said tarot. I don't think I said tarot. I think I said 22 cards. Maybe I said tarot. And she was the only one who responded, who had any clue what I was talking about. And she mentioned, oh, so it's a major arcana only deck. And I was like, okay, she's a good one. Plus I liked her artwork, her style and stuff. So
yeah. Robin, could you post it again? I've just had to scroll up, but I don't want to get too distracted, but I can't find it. I've missed a question from Robin. So if you could post it again, or one of the moderators, that would be great. So then I take it was the poetry tarot.
Then, no.
2 years. I can't believe you did 7 years.
But Children's Tarot is a deck. I actually wrote the guidebook for this in, I think it was 2014. So that's actually a deck that I had thought I want to create. but I've never actually had the thought in my head, I want to be a deck creator. At that, it's sort of evolved. But I did have children's tarot already in mind and the guidebook already written before I finished making the deck. But, you know, life gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah.
So then, then I came out with these in January, February, my Vedic Astrology Oracle. Can't get this in center. There we go. And Vedic Astrology Study Deck. Thank you. And these I created because, one, there's not a whole lot of Vedic astrology decks out there. And I have my book, Shedding Light on Jyotisha. So this is the second edition, and the first edition came out, I don't know, 2014, 2015. I wanted to make a deck to help people study and learn Vedic astrology, but also to use as an oracle. So it was going to be one deck. And then Diane Jarecki, she convinced me to make two. So I blame her for doubling my work on this in a lovingly sort of way. So then I came out with those. And then, was it late May, I came out with the Scrying Poetry Tarot. So I made the original vision is a large deck because it's writing.
It's beautiful as well.
I just have this in front from my last recording. The minors use my grandmother's old watercolor paintings from the 1970s, which I was really excited to use. And the idea of this came about when I was working on the Medieval Sigils Tarot, and I thought, okay, what would be opposite of this? Because that's how I'm like always like philosophizing. Is that right? Waxing philosophical on things in my mind. And I thought, what would be kind of opposite that, but not like a traditional deck? And I thought a written tarot deck, because you're just saying it there in words. And then I thought, yeah, but like, how do you do that without it just, I think I said, without it becoming a tarot guidebook on cards? And I was like, poetry. I'll make a poetry tarot. And so I came up with that. And then last month, July, it's all a blur. I made a mini version.
Wow.
Which is half the size of the original. And I was a little concerned the writing would be too small, but it's okay. And I couldn't make it much bigger because the court cards are limericks, and it would take over the whole cards. And I didn't want like some be smaller print and some be bigger, but it turned out okay. I'll just hold the backs up for comparison. So it's half the size.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, and this one's the mini's more affordable. The hard box, because I did this on Make Playing Cards, to do the hard box and the card size kind of makes it pricey. I think it's like $60, and the mini's only $20.
Oh, cool.
More affordable. The mini is on the Game Crafter, which I think I've done Game Crafter and Make Playing Cards. I think I like Game Crafter better, but they only have tuck boxes, so they have some limitations with what you can create. Children's Tarot is also on Make Playing Cards because it's plastic cardstock and the plastic box. So if kids spill water and stuff on it, they don't ruin their cards. Yeah. So
wow.
The design is important on that. Actually, the design is important on all of them too.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And do you find that Make Playing Cards, sites like Make Playing Cards, Game Crafter, Printer Studio, that they're the way to go? The reason why I ask, I've seen quite recently a few decks that didn't get funding on crowdfunding sites. And, I've been talking to someone in particular over the last week or so about taking that as an option to Make Playing Cards. And whilst the return isn't as great,
right.
You can create your deck and put it out there. And have you ever thought about doing kind of like a Kickstarter campaign or anything like that? Or
yes, I've done tons of research into printing options.
Yeah.
I chose to do, so these are print on demand. So the cost to print them is almost as much as it costs to buy the deck. I mean, I could price it much bigger and make more money, but my thing is I want to create things that are affordable or as affordable as possible and make a couple dollars on it or something here and there. So the reason I went with print on demand was because I had a baby and I was recovering from a lot of physical trauma from that. And the idea of having boxes and boxes of decks and books and packaging materials filling up my home because the garage is a mess and full of stuff. and I have 3 large dogs. I was like, there would be no room to move around. And the time it would take basically to run a shop from my home by myself with a baby, it was just, I was like, that's not the way to go. So I will consider it for future decks, possibly, because now I can handle it more, and we're getting the garage clean. That's a key piece. We need storage space. Exactly. But yeah, there's pluses and minuses to all of it, as well as like going with just a printer and not doing Kickstarter and Indiegogo, or those are the main ones. Just going with a printer and just, through a website, or, selling it myself. So that's another option too. So it's just like weighed the pluses and minuses to all of them. And, then there's always like, you look at like the profit. And really, like, because you put so much money into creating the deck originally, even if you have a Kickstarter and it goes like, 10 times over your goal, yeah, you're going to make a lot of money, although there's more people buying them. So the output of money, I can't think of the right words, the money you put into it versus what you get in return, I don't think is all that different overall, depending on the avenue you go, unless like you sell like crazy and and you're selling your deck for really expensive, or you go with a printer and you're paying $2 per deck. But from my research, like if you usually have to get 1,000, there are a few that you can get 500 decks to start, but usually it's 1,000 or more. And it costs anywhere from $8 to $15 for one deck to be produced. Then there's the shipping from wherever they are, the shipping out, which the other person, the buyer usually pays, but shipping materials, the time, the energy. Yeah. Like, I think to me, it's like, eventually I think it all mostly breaks even for most people.
Yeah.
Except for like the superstars who are just like way out. Even if you go with a publisher, because when you go with a publisher, you're not putting any money up to have your deck produced. And so you're just getting, whatever your royalties are. Yeah. And it depends on how it sells, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's lots of pluses and minuses. But I went with the print on demand because of the ease of it for me. And I like learning all the tech stuff myself, because I like to see how things are done and produced and learn all those details as much as I can. Yeah.
It's convenient for now. And it's also, getting your name out there as a creator, isn't it? So that when you do look at other options further down the line, people know you, they know your work, your work and everything like that. So brilliant. Yeah. We found Robin's question. So he was referring to the sigils deck, and he said, if you read your sigils as a regular tarot, is 11 strength or justice?
In my sigils deck, 11 is justice.
Okay. So it's not in the RWS system.
Yeah. So I have a sort of a weird way of reading tarot. You might remember this, Simon, because your tag, like my first tarot, I think the first tag I ever did. But this was like, I don't know, over a year and a half ago.
Oh, well over, yeah.
Yeah, it was a while ago. But when I learned tarot, I had a Rider-Waite-Smith deck that an ex-boyfriend, who was a boyfriend at the time, gave me. And I had that in the little white book. And then the first book I bought, which wasn't right away, but the first book I bought was the Book of Thoth. And so I learned I didn't know they were different systems. I just thought, well, this is just a different style tarot deck. Yeah. I don't know. And I just learned that way. So I do go with usually the order of RWS with the majors. But I would say the minors for me are highly Thoth influenced. But when I created the deck, I looked at meanings from like Atea and, all systems, and just kind of went with what felt like, that's funny to explain, what felt like it had the strongest energy with a particular tarot card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, particularly with a deck like your poetry tarot, because I know from seeing your video about it that different styles of poetry relate to whether they're a major, minor, or court card.
Yes.
So with you kind of being more familiar with the Thoth system of minors, which have those keywords, is that the same with your poetry tarot? Because your poetry relates to the Thoth keyword.
Yeah, so I say with the poetry tarot, it's mostly RWS with a hint of Thoth, which people who know Thoth and the Thoth keywords will see that in the minors for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you watch any of my readings on my channel, if I say like, this is the card of such and such, 5 of Cups, this is the card of disappointment. That's the Thoth keyword, because that's how I learned it. And that's like what pops into my mind right away, even though it might differ a little bit in the actual reading itself. Because I feel when we do readings, I'm also teaching tarot at the same time. So I often explain what cards are, just so people understand.
Yeah. But that's really cool, because I can remember when I was learning tarot, I always talk about the Tarot Bible, the book, but there was an app that I used as well that was called Learn Tarot. And one of the easiest things for me was not necessarily the keywords or key phrases, but there would be a little bit of almost like a saying, you know, that linked to the card. I can't think of one off the top of my head, and then there's the book, The Pithy Tarot, where they're all like little phrases and quotes, popular phrases and quotes that link to the cards. And I would imagine something like poetry and limericks would be a good way to learn the essence of the
art. There's a rhythm to it, especially the limericks. Those were so fun to make. And reversal meanings are in the poetry. They're like tucked in, especially with the limericks, because that last line, you know, has like a little twist, as well as the majors, which are haiku. And that third line in the haiku, because it's 575, is a little like, you know, they call it a hook or something like that. So you can extrapolate reversal meanings with it as well, even if you don't turn the poetry upside down, because that would be weird. But it's also like, if you, let's say you do a 3-card spread, it's probably not a good deck for like a full Celtic cross or anything. But if you do like a 3-card spread and then see how the poetry lays out, different styles that come up, but especially with the minors, because it's free form, and like the ace through the 10, the pips in each suit is actually one poem. But if they're mixed up, it'd be interesting, like you're doing a reading on something, what message comes through, what poetry, what new poem comes out of it.
Yeah. And Robin says, could you read a poetry card just to show us an example?
Yeah, here, let's just, which is on top. Oh, we have the Hermit. Okay. So, lanterns light for sight. Insight sees through the darkness. What do you not see?
Wonderful. What do you not see?
And then, I mean, some of them, there's a little humor tucked in. So like the Tower, at least to me, there's humor tucked in. Time to deconstruct, or let it all self-destruct. Breaking out of jail.
Lovely.
Yeah, so they're fun. Let me get a limerick here for you. Okay, Knight of Coins. So I did Pentacles as coins. For some reason, that just felt better with this deck. So Knight of Coins. There was a young chap hanging round who delayed and got stuck on the ground. But through patience and will, he no longer stood still, lest he stagnate and never be found.
Oh, wow. I love it.
Yeah, so you can see how, like, if I made the font bigger, it doesn't just it gets longer, but it gets wider. And so, but it turned out, I'm actually really happy it came out, you know, readable. It's probably still like a 14 font in like a book. So it came out all right.
I might have to get these. Did you say Game Crafter? Game Crafter
for the mini. And the big one is, which is 3 by 5. Yes. Is on Make Playing Cards. But again, it's just go to my website and like click on the picture.
Oh, have we lost her? Are we still broadcasting, guys? Let me just see. Let me know if you can still see us. Let me just see if I can get.
Okay.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah, we both just started spinning.
Oh, okay. I just asked if we're still broadcasting. So Jamie Kelly's come back, still broadcasting. So that's good.
I actually just realized I might not have put the mini link up from my website yet.
Okay.
The Make Playing Cards will say in the description it's on Game Crafter, or just go to Game Crafter and or go to my channel page and click on the video, any video, and you'll find them there.
Lovely, brilliant. So as we kind of mentioned earlier, astrology plays a huge part of your channel, and you do astrology and card readings.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get into astrology? Where did that start?
When I was a little girl.
Wow.
So I always loved astrology. I mean, we had a bunch of kids on our street, our street kids. We all played together, always over at each other's homes. We'd often read the horoscope, and like mystical, occult, esoteric things were like just common stuff we talked about and played around with. So I feel like I grew up in this kind of unique place. I mean, it's San Francisco, it's hippie town. Like it wasn't like, ooh, astrology, or don't try to play Bloody Mary in the mirror or anything. Like we like played all these things and magic 8 balls, and it was just fun stuff kids we fooled around with. So I was always interested in it. My grandmother, I'd read the horoscope with her sometimes. It's funny because she was a Scorpio Sagittarius cusp. I think she was actually a Scorpio. Now that I'm an astrologer, I've looked her stuff up. But she'd always say things like, "Oh, there's something to it. There's something to it," So there's always this interest in it. And there's a story I tell from my freshman year in college. So back in the early 90s, it was like finals week, and I was like walking to one of my finals, and I just had this random thought, it would be really cool to be an astrologer. And then I thought, well, I don't know how you do that, so I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. But my first degree is in classics. So I studied Greek and Roman languages, mythology. My focus was archaeology and the languages, because I thought I wanted to be an archaeologist. And so I actually was like, I was studying things that gave me a great background for studying astrology. So I guess I was already on that path. And then it's just the interest grew. When I was in grad school studying historical linguistics, I would just hang out in the Barnes and Noble. They had this like area where you could like sit and study. And if I got tired or needed a break, I'd get up and go grab some of the astrology books and look through them and read them. So the interest has always been there. And then in I think it was 2004, a friend of mine who's a Vedic astrologer did a reading for me, and I just fell in love with Vedic astrology. And from then on, I just immersed myself in it. Yeah.
And you've got a video which compares Vedic astrology.
Yes.
Yeah.
That I think is my most popular video.
It is.
Yeah. And I made that maybe 5 years ago or so. Wow. I think it was 2015. It was a while. I was still in San Francisco then. So yeah.
Yes, so many hits. I saw it and I was like, wow.
Yeah, it's like, because on your dashboard you can see like the videos that get the most views. It's always in those top 3. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, that's great.
If you go to somebody's channel, you can look at their newest video, their oldest video, and their most popular video, and that's the most popular video. So that as an option. Yeah. So you grew up in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Are you still there?
I'm in Santa Barbara now, which is, I think it's about 100 miles north of LA, but like a 4 to 5 hour drive in traffic.
Wow. And San Francisco is always, I've been to America 4 times, but I've never made it that far west really. But San Francisco just seems to be one of those places where people are tolerated, and there is that sort of free spirit, and people just seem to be so open about exploring all different things. So that must have given you a really good sort of grounding.
Well, for me, that was all just normal.
Yeah.
Just people with different interests, people looking different. Well, I guess it wasn't called the LGBTQ plus community then, but like I grew up 4 blocks up the hill from where Harvey Milk's office was. Like, wow. I remember the parties and the marches down in the Castro. I remember you could hear them from our home. It's just, people were just, it doesn't matter. Like, like how you dress, how you look, what you do. Not that everyone is tolerant there, but overall, it's just like, okay, cool, you're different. That's interesting. Like, to me, it just made people more interesting. Like, oh, you're different. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. You have this interest in astrology? Great. You have this interest in like seeing if there's ghosts in your house? Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, not only does it just look a beautiful, beautiful city and place, but you know, ever since Tales of the City, it's just one of those places that just seems just so open and accepting. It just sounds wonderful. So on my bucket list for sure.
It's a beautiful city, definitely.
Yeah, and by the water, and yeah. Oh, and those trolleys. Do you call them trolleys? I think we were
cable cars.
Oh, all right. Okay. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
So
and you go down the big hill, and then you're like, you know, I mean, the hills are normal to me, but like, you know, if a friend was visiting or had gone home to visit family with someone, you know, just driving on the hills, and I'm like, oh yeah, do, and they're like, oh my God, like, it's okay, we won't fall off.
Yeah, I think it would be a shock for me going over there with very flat countryside that we're used to here.
It's like a roller coaster driving around.
Hold on to your breakfast.
Yes.
So that's where astrology came into your life. What about tarot? How did you discover the tarot?
So I'm not sure if I had seen tarot cards as a kid, but we used to play with playing cards a lot, and all like magic tricks, or I think we even play with divination and so on. But that first tarot deck I had that I had gotten from an ex-boyfriend, that was my first known exposure to tarot. So that was like 1996, I believe. And I remember how the cards seemed so huge. And I think I've even said in some videos it must have been a big, like the monster size. And then afterwards I realized, you know, it was probably normal size, but compared to regular playing cards, it just seemed so huge. So he gave me his deck because he wasn't using it. And then, you know, it was 1996. I remember I didn't even have my own computer, but I'd go on his computer and I'd look up tarot, and there wasn't much out there. But I remember studying the meanings online a little bit. And actually, I just realized this, whatever website it was, I have no idea, it had those Thoth keywords with Rider-Waite-Smith cards. That's interesting. So that's probably also why I was like, oh, it's just different images or whatever. And then maybe a few years after that, this is when I was living in Seattle. So I was married once before. My ex-husband didn't want me to have the tarot cards, so I got rid of them. And so there was this phase where it was like not in my life for a little bit. And then after that marriage ended, I actually started to get into astrology before that marriage was over. And then that connected me back with tarot, because that friend who's a Vedic astrologer also did tarot, and that reconnected me to all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And I was going to ask actually, so because you come from a place that was quite accepting, and you live in Santa Barbara now, how is tarot viewed where you are? Is it quite mainstream, or?
It's accepted. There's a tarot meetup group here. Right now we're meeting by Zoom because of the pandemic, right? So there's a tarot meetup here. There's a wonderful metaphysical shop in town. Like 25 minutes away, there's another town with a wonderful metaphysical and crystal shop. So I would say the West Coast of the US is pretty open and accepting. Probably, not everywhere, but Seattle was really open and accepting. Actually, I would say Vancouver is too. Portland, all the coastal parts of the West Coast of the US, pretty open and accepting of everything.
And also, I mean, I might be making a mass generalization, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems both coasts as well. So over on the East Coast as well, with New York and Florida, Miami, and all that area is pretty open.
That's what I've heard. I've actually never been to the East Coast. I've only been as far east in the US as Chicago. I mean, I've been to Europe, but I've never been to the East Coast of the US.
Yeah. And we've got people in the chat like Jesse and Robin, who obviously.
Yeah, I know tons of people from the tarot community. Yeah. I'm like, someday we'll do a big road trip up and down or something.
Yeah.
I would love to do that, actually. Yeah. Just haven't had a chance to get out there.
Yeah. My dream has always been to land on the East Coast and hire a car and just go all the way to the West.
I used to have this dream of doing this sort of big circular driving or train trip from like down the West Coast and then the southern part of the US, because I'd love to go to Louisiana, and then come up the East Coast and then like through Canada, like Montreal and such, and come up like a big circle.
Yeah.
Someday. We'll see.
We can dream. We can dream.
Yeah.
You have to have a dream. So are you pretty well known in the community as well, Julie? Do you operate a business from home or just online? Or
not here. It's mostly online. I do have a small group of clients. So I moved here in late 2015. And because I knew I was going to move, I was building my business online. And like a year later, I got married. So I started reaching out to the community then, like the tarot meetup group was there. And I was looking into doing readings at the metaphysical shop in the town that's a little bit a ways. But that didn't work out because one of their old readers came back. And I was really looking into like, where can I do readings? How can I connect to community? And I was looking into ways to teach courses as well, like at the libraries. And then a year after I moved here, a little more than a year after I moved here, I married my husband, who I met here at the dog park. Our dogs brought us together. And then I was continually like looking into those options. And then I was pregnant and I was too sick and I had to set all that aside. I couldn't even go to the meetups, like which were once a month. I had a really difficult pregnancy and stuff, but I have videos on that if you want to check it out. And so I kind of set all that aside. And then I just continued things just kept building online without me even trying, because I already had like a base, and then people say, oh, contact her, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But like friends I had met or neighbors I had met where I lived up on the pass in the mountains when I first moved here. I made connections there. And so I do readings for some people locally, but it's through like a friend, and a friend recommends a friend. But it's occasionally, of course, right now, the pandemic, not. So it is mostly online. I have this past year done readings at, what do they call it? The Healing Arts Fair here. Okay. It's called Center of the Heart. So I've done that, I think 2 or 3 times. And it's great because I've worked fairs in the past where it's like 3 days, you're there like 10, 12 hours a day, and it's exhausting. This is like 5 hours one day.
Yeah. So
I have done readings there locally as well. But it's funny, everyone I was reading for was like moving. I'm like, are you moving? Yes. Like, so I don't think they're here anymore. But I did have a couple of repeats come to that. So I've a teeny bit built up my local base. But really, it's been all online, and that's actually worked well, just given my circumstances and having a toddler and now the pandemic. So the pandemic hasn't affected me at all.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Except that there's no preschool and I'm busier. I don't have those little bits of time to myself, which I usually work during, but yeah.
I was going to say, because a lot of people have found that having that extra time due to the pandemic and lockdown, that they've been able to really concentrate on more creative projects. Mm-hmm. I guess with having little ones that.
Yeah. I've actually been a little jealous of people because I'm like, I have not had any extra time. My husband's gone to work through the whole thing because he's in sort of an essential field. He's an engineer, and they're making fever detectors. So his work has been really busy. Mine has been normal busy. And yeah, so I've been a little jealous because I'm like, oh, I would really like to have a chunk of time to just work on my book, and I don't have it. And I struggle to find those moments that are quiet that I can work on it. Yeah.
Jamie Kelly asks, Julie, do you have a favorite time to read cards?
Like time of the day? For myself or for other people?
That's a good question.
Well, I guess for other people, I mean, it's when I can schedule it in. So I do a lot of my client work on the weekends because my husband's home with Mini-Me. That's what I call her online. Mini-Me. I used to call her baby, and I was like, well, she's not baby anymore. Occasionally in the evening, because I do like, Skype or FaceTime sessions. I also do recording. So occasionally I'll have some recordings scheduled in the evening after dinner. I used to do some live session, like video call sessions then, but my husband's work is so busy. Sometimes he's home late, and then that stresses me out because I don't want to be late for work. Not that I ever have been. So I'll schedule recordings then. I do some email readings. Nearly every day I have a handful of what I call my quickie readings, which are 1 card or 3 card email readings. So those I can do with my daughter because I can stop and come back to it because I'm not talking to someone, right? I can like pull the cards and she's like, help me. And I go help her and I come back, or I do it during nap time. And then personally, when I do my readings are usually early in the morning. So I get up between 4 and 5 every day just so I can have my own quiet time. And that's when I do like my daily cards, or if I want to do a reading for myself about something, it's usually then. Yeah. Right. So that answers both.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. Yeah. So you talked about your first deck, which was the gifted deck from my friend at the time. Did you say, I can't remember if you said you remembered what that was called or not. Did you remember the name of that deck?
It was the Rider-Waite.
It was just a Rider-Waite-Smith deck.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the question I always ask is about what was your first deck? So the Rider-Waite-Smith. And has your taste changed much to what was your last deck that you've purchased now? Have you gone on a bit of a journey?
My taste has, well, because I didn't know for years that there was like 3 main systems, right? So Thoth, RWS, and Marseille. So my taste has broadened, but also gotten more specific.
Yes.
There was a while, like this past, so in 2019, I did a big deck purge because I think I was making up for not hardly touching the cards when I was pregnant, and I kind of bought too many. I bought a lot, or I found the community and saw all these videos and like, oh, that's a cool deck. Let me buy that. So I was like, I need to purge out my deck collection. And I either sold, gave away, or gifted about 70 decks last year.
Wow.
And I'm like, when did I get all these decks? I remember when I just had 4 decks, for years. And then like through that process, because I would look at them and I'm like, okay, which ones are like really similar? And I went through this phase where I didn't like Rider-Waite-Smith. I was just like, there's so many like copies of it, great artwork and stuff. But I was like, how many decks do I need that are kind of the same? And so I started looking for decks that are very different that appeal to me, but not get them just because they're different, but like, oh, that's a cool concept. Or I would get some decks because I'm like, I want to study, what the creator made here because it looks interesting. It's different. So it broadened that way, but it also got more specific. And then I've come back to RWS a little bit. But yeah, I just went through this phase where I was like, I just don't want any of these. And I kept one, the Radiant Rider-Waite. And then I got the, what is it called? The original Rider-Waite. The creator sent it to me. It's the one that's linen.
The original?
It's in that black cabinet back there. I forget. But the creator sent it to me and I did a video on it. And I was like, oh, I'm okay with you now. And I was like, I'm happy to have you back. So I think I needed a break from it.
It Pam's original by Real, Lucky 7?
No, I
don't think one that's got original.
It's a tan box.
Tin box?
Tan, T-A-N.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. So, but even though I had Book of Thoth and I use those, my mind, pops in those keywords, especially of the minors right away. I had never had a Thoth. Well, I had the Sun and Moon Tarot, which I love, but I never had bought the Thoth Tarot deck until like last December. And I don't know why I hadn't until then, but all of a sudden I was like, I want this deck. And so I bought it. No, I was really, really glad I did. For some reason, I just, I think it's the artwork kind of, because it's like, it's very fractured looking.
Yeah.
I think that bothered me for a while, and somehow I became more comfortable with it. Because I worked with that deck, like when I've taught tarot classes, like in person years ago, and students would have that deck, and I was like, oh, this is really cool art, but I just never felt drawn to buy it. And then so last December, I finally bought it, and I was like, oh, I love it. And then I bought the Tabula Mundi.
I was going to ask, yeah.
The mini one, because the bigger one wasn't available, but that's fine. Yeah. And I've had the Hermetic Tarot for a long time too.
Okay.
Like, but yeah, it's just that soft deck for some reason. I think it was just the fracturedness, you know, because there's like fractured psychology. Yeah. Like I think, and that might have been a reflection of like stuff I was like working through in my own psyche. And then I was like, you know what? I'm okay with it now. I'm going to get it.
And that's great, because they do come to us at a particular time, don't they?
Yeah.
And, you know, I've used the example before, Mary L. I just could not connect with Mary L. Almost gave it away, and then I've got like 5 copies now in different versions. It's just an amazing, incredible thing, but it wasn't right at the time, you know. When
Mary L. Like I bought it right first time I saw it. I bought it. I was like, oh, this is amazing. And
yeah,
well, it's another deck where it's like it's very unique. It's the images can speak so much to you, and they can go beyond the traditional tarot meanings of the cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's that whole, you know, so many different videos out there. Some saying it's actually a Marseille deck, others saying, well, it's an RWS, some saying Thoth, some saying it's actually none of them, some saying it's all of them. It's what it is, you know. Right. And sometimes decks are created that just are their own thing, you know. And when we can try and free ourselves with that, I tend to work with Mary L. so intuitively, rather than, yes, we're always, I think if you've got that underpinning knowledge, you're always going to pull a card like the 6 of Swords and think of that boat, and you think of that. But just look at the image and just see what Marie White is trying to convey, you know, and it's its own thing. And some people say, well, I use it as an oracle, and that's fine too, you know. It can be whatever you want it to be.
I don't think anyone has to use any particular deck any particular way.
Yeah.
It really depends on what a person's comfortable with. Some people really like to just read textbook, you know, by the meaning. Some people really ignore that and just look at the image, you know. Most people, some sort of mix of the two. And then like, as you grow with it, sometimes a deck can grow with you.
Yeah.
Different meanings sort of sprout out of what you've learned about it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly how I learned Marseille, you know. I still used my knowledge of RWS, but then just took the basic numerology for the minors, ace through to 10. And I can remember talking about that and being jumped on Instagram. You can't do that with the Marseille. And I was thinking, says who?
Yeah. You can, yeah. It's like everyone reads differently. No two people are going to read exactly the same. Like, yeah.
I particularly like what you said as well, Julie, about tarot collection and how it evolves. And you so hit the nail on the head. We start off, you know, very narrow, and then you get brought, but then you come back, don't you, to, I don't know, I see it a lot in the community, and I'm myself included, you know, thinking that we've got to play catch up, we've got to get all these decks and by the book, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love having a large collection, but I do find now I'm at the stage where it's quite narrow again, and I know what I like, and you know, I don't feel I've got to have every deck, all these decks.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to now really speak to me, and I know that I'm going to work with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I realized some decks like I just wasn't using. And I was like, it's cool, it's beautiful. I have no desire to like pull it off the shelf and use it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if I felt like that about a deck, I let it go.
Yeah. And that's the beauty when it becomes pre-loved, you know, because you've loved it for a time, but now somebody else get that enjoyment out of it as well.
Yeah. Yes.
So when you look out for a particular deck, are there any kind of check boxes that you look out for in terms of how cards have been interpreted, card stock, any particular tick boxes that you have to check?
Not really, but I think I probably should. I tend to like, for some reason, not notice the card stock if it's mentioned, or the size sometimes. And I think I should, but I kind of like now that I've, you know, did my deck clearing last year, and I've kind of broadened and narrowed at the same time what I'm interested in. I still kind of like to just intuitively feel when I see a deck and look at, some pictures online and be like, yeah, I want that. But sometimes I think I should, because I'll get a deck and I'll be like, what? This wasn't what I was thinking I was getting. So yeah, not really. And there isn't one particular card, because I know I've seen things like that on Facebook. People are like, what's the deal breaker card? And I don't really have one.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm thinking, like, is there one that I really like? There isn't really. It's kind of the full picture of it all.
And what about genre? Are you drawn to any particular genre of decks?
No. I guess like the ones that are different, I'm most drawn to, because I make decks that I think are like different. Because I'm always like, how can like this, how can I make an abstract deck? How can I make a written deck? So like things that are a little different or a different take on things, I would say I'm most drawn to.
Yeah.
Usually it's like I'll see a picture somewhere, sometimes just a thumbnail of a video, and I won't watch the video. I'll just go online and look for the deck and just decide from there. Yeah. But then, sometimes I'll get a deck and be like, I should have done more research.
Can I just talk briefly as well? I know we've been on over an hour now, but
oh wow.
no, it always goes so quick. It's the quickest time of the week for me, these. Yeah. So you're a writer, as you said, as well. That's part of your creative outlet.
Mm-hmm.
Are you an avid book reader? And if so, do you have any particular favorite book? So a favorite sort of nonfiction or a favorite fiction book?
Okay, so I don't really read a lot of fiction, almost none. Just because if I'm reading something, I want to learn something, or it's somehow part of research for something I'm creating or doing, because I just love learning. And not that you can't learn from fiction, but there's so much I want to read that sort of gets pushed away. Although I read a lot of children's books right now too, for mini-me. But it's usually something related to what I do. So right now I'm reading Evolutionary Herbalism, which is a very thick book. It actually connects herbalism with astrology quite a bit. And there's a little tarot connection in there. So I'm about 2/3 through that. So I find that interesting. So I do try to, because I mostly do herbalism for myself, my family. I do try to keep up on knowledge and information, because I'm not, making things every day, right? So it's good to keep up on things. But this is really interesting because it's tying it in with astrology and different healing systems like Ayurveda, TCM or traditional Chinese medicine, or acupuncture to some people, Western mysticism as well, and alchemy. So it's a very interesting book. I've also been reading Spiritual Emergency. These books are in another room, so I can't grab them, which is, I bought it for research. So I'm working on a book on schizophrenia. My sister has schizophrenia, and it's a book about schizophrenia, but she's the subject. And so I bought it as part of my research into it. And I've actually found that it's revealing a lot of things about myself in it. And it's a compilation of different essays from different psychologists. It's very fascinating. So those are the two I'm reading right now, as well as just bits and pieces of, what is it? Healing Power of Trees. I read like the monthly thing for each tree. And then I was looking at my books right here. And I'm halfway through like the Red Book by Carl Jung.
Okay.
I've been reading it for years though. So I put it away and then I come back and then I put it away and then I come back. So they tend to be things I read tend to be very psychological and educational.
Okay.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah.
Billy asked a question. She says, does Julianne have any pet peeves regarding decks?
The one that pops up is cardstock that's too thick.
Too thick?
I'm a riffle shuffler.
Right.
And so I did get the Modern Witch Tarot, like around Christmas time. Is that the right one? I think so. Yeah. And it's such thick cardstock, I can't even bend the cards.
Yeah.
And so I gave it away. I was like, I can't riffle and I can't use it. Like for client readings, I riffle because it gives you it mixes it up the best. Like if you just do overhand, you have to do it for a really, really, really long time to get that mix, or you have to do other things to get that, you mix up the cards so they're not stuck in the same order. And so if I can't riffle, if it's a deck because I bought it to work with clients and I can't riffle shuffle for clients, then yeah, I can't use it. If it's just personal use, then whatever, you know. But if my intention is like, this is a working deck, and I can't do what I need to do with it, I can't, there's nothing I can do.
What about cards that are too thin? Is that such a thing for you?
No, I can't say I've had a deck where the cardstock was too thin. Like the Llewellyn cardstock to me is the thinnest, and I like it because it gives a beautiful riffle shuffle.
Yeah.
But I haven't had anywhere like some people say it's like paper thin.
Yeah.
At least not to my, not according to me. But yeah, if I had a deck and it's like ripping, then
I mean, I just bought one called I can't even remember the publisher. It's not a well-known publisher, but I bought the Fairy Tale Tarot. No, it's not called the Fairy Tale Tarot. I forgot what it is called now, but I bought it in Glastonbury. Inner Child cards, which is around working with your inner child.
That sounds interesting.
Cards are fairy tales.
Okay.
But it is paper thin. It's paper thin. I need to back it or something because the artwork is amazing, but I just know it's going to damage really easily.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It would be. Yeah. I would. Riffle shuffling would probably rip something like that apart. Yeah.
So, do you define yourself spiritually? Do you have a particular spiritual practice that you want to share?
I would say I'm spiritual. I wouldn't say I have like one lineage or practice. It's kind of my own practice. But it is strongly influenced by yoga traditions and Buddhism, as well as Christianity. Like I grew up Catholic, but I don't I see like people talk about like Catholic guilt and shame. I had none of that experience, so I don't have that perspective on it.
Right.
I actually see that upbringing. Maybe it's because it was in San Francisco, but like to me, that upbringing was a great spiritual foundation for all that I do, and like basically the teachings of Jesus, which is be kind.
Yeah,
that's it, you know. Yeah. And so those are sort of like the main religious influences in my spiritual practice, and it does change over time and depending on where I am in my life, physically and psychologically. But I usually do my morning prayers, which often involves a form of sun salutation. I would say my morning tarot cards is part of my spiritual practice. I include this. I do a lot of work in the dream time, which sounds funny to say, but I trained myself. So years and years ago, I read a book. This is maybe probably 10 or more years ago. I read a book called Dream Yoga, and it was written by a Tibetan Lama or Rinpoche. And I bought that because I was really like trying to like learn how to work my dreams and like, I could re-enter dreams after I'd woken up, and trained myself to like dream and be awake at the same time.
Wow.
So I bought that, though I don't follow the actual routine in that book, though sometimes I wake up and I find myself in that exact position I mentioned. But like I work the dream time because I get a lot of insights about what I'm struggling with or working with in my life, depending on what it is, right? And I just love because it's like transitioning through different states and being in control of it. Now, it's not every night. Sometimes I go to sleep and I have what I call mishmash dreams, and like you have no idea what it doesn't all come together and whatever. But yeah, I really like to explore and understand the psyche through the dream world.
Wow, that really fascinates me as well at the moment because just shared recently, I was interviewed by Rochelle over at Amethyst. Mm-hmm. She said to me, do you do anything with dreams? Do you remember your dreams? And I said, I never, well, I'm sure I do dream, but I never remember them. And right from that night, I've been having dreams.
Wow.
Something. And I even brought a dream journal when I was in Glastonbury.
I was going to say, write them down.
Yeah. And I found the other day, I woke up and it wasn't at the side of my bed because I've been using it in the day. So I was using my voice recorder and talking about this dream so I wouldn't forget. Switched it off, went back to sleep. And it was like 2 days later, I thought, oh, now I did have a dream. What was it? And I told people about this dream, but when I pressed the recording back, there was so much more detail that I'd forgotten.
Yeah.
You know, I'd gone straight back in sleep, and then I only remembered the highlights, if you like.
Right. Yeah. So sometimes because I have dream journal, I have a whole bunch, but I keep a dream journal. Sometimes I'll wake up and like before I make my coffee or tea, I'll just write down keywords so I don't forget all the details, and then I'll come back and fill it in later. Yeah. But like a voice, record. That's a good idea.
The quickest thing to hand, because I didn't want to, and it was an absurd dream, but you know, I thought there's got to be something I can unpick and explore in that. But I find that if I wake up and I don't remember the dream instantly and start to work it back, it's gone. And sometimes I'm trying to hold on to something that's disappearing. You know, there's the tangibleness of it is
right.
And I'm like, oh, what was that? You know,
or something happens a few hours later, and you're like, oh, I had this dream, and wait, what was it? Yeah, you're like, it's exactly. You're like, but it was, I can't remember. Oh no.
Yeah, but there's something familiar with what we just said or did, but.
But it's interesting to go back. So if you keep that voice recording, or if you wrote it out, like to go back and read through dreams like years later, like it means to, like, for me, I'll go back and read it. Like I understand so much more than the time that I had the dream.
Okay.
Even like sometimes I'll think, oh, I haven't written in my dream journal in a while, and I'll look back and I'm like, oh, I just wrote 2 dreams last week. What? You know, it's like, so it's really interesting to go back, because I think, because in the, you know, it's in the dream time, in that, you know, collective unconscious space, it doesn't go by our linear time.
No.
So we may have a dream that tells us about something from 10 years ago, or gives us advice for 10 years in the future, or tomorrow, or yesterday. And so that's why I feel it's so important to like write them down, and then once in a while go back and read through some of them.
Yeah.
And see what jumps out.
And sometimes there's been triggers that might have happened the day prior that then will play out in your dream, but it's your kind of subconscious reaction to it will be completely different to how your conscious reaction would have been to it. I find that when I've remembered them, I thought, well, that was because so-and-so did that or said that. It's interesting how it's played out in my kind of subconscious.
Yeah, it's interesting when you dream about events of the previous day. Like, one, it's like sorting that out in your mind. But 2, did those events trigger something within your psyche? And now your psyche is trying to work through something that happened 20 years ago, or, you know, something else. Like, there's so many like ways it can go. And sometimes I think it's a little bit of all of it.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's what I call my mishmash dreams, or anxiety dreams, which are just like the brain just like cleaning out the garbage, basically. Yeah.
Absolutely.
They don't really mean anything. It's just, sorting stuff out.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So if you could go back to your 16-year-old self, having all the knowledge that you have and all the information, what conversation would you have with your 16-year-old self?
16-year-old self. I would probably say it would probably have to do with relationships I was in. So friends or a boyfriend or something. And I'd probably advise my 16-year-old self to not bother with them. Just do your own thing. Yeah. They're just going to mean nothing later on. Focus on those weird things you're interested in.
Yeah.
And the right group of people.
Yeah.
It's
telling yourself not to waste time on things that don't actually have to be important.
And just trust your intuition and all the weirdness you think about. Yeah.
No, I like that. The final question I like to ask people is, you're having a dinner party, 3 guests that's going to be top of your list, alive or dead. You know, who would they be? Who would you invite?
Okay. So I often give the same, you know, if there's someone you could talk to, I think it would be my grandparents. I guess 3 of them, not all 4. But
in that case,
so my grandmother, my mother's mother, who I used to describe her, and we talked about like she had experience, you know, so we talked about all these like weird all the time. But I want to talk to her as an adult. I want to know like what she, you know, she's the grandmother who liked astrology, what she knew, what she experienced, what she did. I want more details on the stories of the weird, spooky stuff, especially because the house or the family home where my dad still lives. I'm 4th generation on my mom's side of the family there. It's a haunted house, which is another writing project I'm working on. But I want to know more details, and I want to know more about her. And then my other grandmother, who was from Scotland, her father was a 33rd degree Freemason. I want to know what she knew about all that stuff. I want to know, because that's all metaphysical, occult stuff. I want to know what she knew. She may not have known, because he died when she was like 5, and she had 4 older sisters. So her mother, her grandmother, and her sisters moved from Scotland to Vancouver after he died. So because then like Freemasons was, I think it was all men, so they might not have known much, but I'm still curious, like, or maybe maybe my great grandfather, then the Freemason, I want to sit down with him, and understand what he knew and what his experiences were and all that. And then I guess one of my grandfathers was from Denmark, and talk to him, because you may have seen this in some video, but like I say, we have a berserker gene. And 1, there's a hot temper, and 2, that's also a shamanistic thing. And so I want to, or maybe like his grandfather or something, see where that comes from, because there's definitely something there. And I've done like ancestral work through dream time, through meditation, through tarot cards even. But I would just love to sit down and talk with, I guess, a few of those ancestors to understand what was there, and am I right? You know, I could be totally wrong, right? Yeah. So it's really, I guess, discovering who I am and where I come from.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's great. And I just want to say as well, going back, I love that you're writing about what you know. You know, you talked about the haunted house, your sister's condition. They always say a great writer writes about what they know. So using those experiences, good luck with those.
Thank you. They're intense. I mean, the schizophrenia book is intense because I'm trying to get into my sister's mind. And so it's like, it's like channeling her kind of to understand it. But I also understand a lot of her crazy talk more than anyone else, because a lot of it reflects our childhood play. So to me, it's really fascinating. And it looks into, I'm exploring like all the possible causes. So, discussing, unlikely, but it could be genetic, neurobiology, brain chemistry, but then there's also past life, awareness of alternate realities. Definitely, I feel that's a big part of it. She's picking up too much. She's also a shaman, but can't ground herself in reality. And then I'll, explore like, is it alien abduction? Kind of look at the whole broad picture of it. But I do feel there's a huge spiritual crisis element. Maybe not to everyone, right? Every experience is different, but at least to her experience, and probably a lot of people out there. Yeah.
No, brilliant. It'll be an important read, I'm sure. And everybody's shouting, are you doing paper and plastic? We certainly are. I asked Julie at the beginning if she was happy to play along. So paper or plastic is just a very quick fire round, either, and not to really overthink it. There's about 20 prompts. So paper or plastic?
Paper.
Oracle or tarot?
Oracle.
YouTube or Instagram?
Instagram.
Peanut butter or jelly?
Jelly. I hate peanut.
Big parties or small gatherings?
Small gatherings.
Yeah, I knew that was going to come. Wait or Crowley?
Crowley.
Bath or shower?
Shower.
bordered or borderless?
Oh, tough one. I guess I've only made borderless. Borderless.
Dark and creepy or rainbows and unicorns?
Ooh, dark and creepy.
Yes. Indie or mass market?
Indie.
Tablet or PC?
PC.
Save or spend?
Save.
Money or free time?
Free time.
Phone calls or FaceTime?
FaceTime.
Movies at home or in the cinema?
At home.
Large cards or small cards?
Small.
Life after death or total extinction?
Life after death.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Woodland forest or sandy beaches?
Ooh. Sandy beaches. It's close.
Yeah. Toilet roll hanging over or under?
Over.
Over.
I realize I look really red. It's this,
You look red?
right here. I look really pink. Pink and red. I think it's because the morning sun is right in my face, if anyone's wondering why I look so bright.
No, you've got a nice colour. Okay, so I'm going to pull a card and use the latest deck I got, which is the Lonely Dreamer Tarot. Whilst I'm pulling a card to leave people with, do you want to talk about or show us a deck that you're really drawn to at the moment, or one that's vying for your attention?
Well, the one I've been using recently for my daily readings is, let's pull it over here, is the Sacred India Tarot. I've had this deck for a long, long time. Back from when I had like 4 or 5 decks. Way back when I had just a few. It's based on the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. So it's based on Hindu mythology. And so the book is, I mean, it's a full-size book. It's really great for studying that as well, if you're interested in that. I was drawn to it because of my yoga background and such, and it looked really cool. Oh, and back when I only had a blog and no other social media, I used to follow the artist on WordPress. And so I kind of followed along with her creation of the cards. And so that's how I knew about it. I don't know how else I would have known about it back then. I think by then I'd only bought in decks like in actual stores. So to me, it speaks to my soul. I'm not of Indian heritage, but I do feel I have strong past life connections there. So that's what I'm drawn to. It has extra cards.
Beautiful deck.
Oh, and the Pentacles is based on the life of Buddha. So that's in there as well. So a beautiful deck. That's one of the death cards. Kali. The other is Yama. So that's what I've been using lately. Lovely deck.
Beautiful. Such a beautiful deck.
Yeah.
I walked into a shop in London, Watkins Books, and it had gone out of print. And I'd never thought I'd get it. And I tried everywhere to get it. And right at the base, there was a chunk of all these decks. And I was moving them about. And right at the back was a copy.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, my goodness. I've got it.
So I guess, it's not available anymore? Or?
I think they re-released it. I think it's the second edition that was released a year or 2 after that. But
yeah, so I've had this one a long time.
Yeah, so. Cool. Okay, we have the 9 of Wands. I had to look then. I was like, I couldn't make out the font and that. It's a very brand new deck. So this is such a beautiful image, but it does portray that vulnerability that lots of us have. And I'm going to go with what's just come into my mind, and it's based on a personal experience for today, which is really not to jump to be defensive. I think sometimes when we feel vulnerable, it's very often to do with what we perceive someone's perception to be of us.
Right.
If we're being told something, and we might not initially feel comfortable with what we're being told, then let's not jump to be defensive. Let's try and be open. Let's try and always do better. And I think really we develop strength, particularly strength of character, but we develop strength when we are constantly trying and persisting and being open and listening and taking on board constructive feedback. That's how we grow. That's how we develop. So I understand the sense of vulnerability in particular, but I think if we're less suspicious of others and their intentions and really listen to what it is that they're giving us, and we give it as a gift that we can take on board, embrace, and continue to strive to be our best, that's where we will grow, and that's where we'll grow in strength. So
it's really beautiful.
It's a gorgeous card as well. Such a gorgeous, I mean, beautiful deck.
What deck is that again?
So this is the Lonely Dreamer Tarot. It's just been on Kickstarter by M. Wotherspoon, Melissa Wotherspoon.
The Rodin, or no? Who's the artist?
It's based on the artwork of Odilon Radon.
Right, yeah.
I
remember looking at that because I used one of that artist's images for one of the cards I made for the Button Soup Tarot.
All right.
Yeah, because I remember seeing that, I was like, oh, that's the same artist. Great idea.
It's really, really stunning.
Beautiful card.
Melissa sent me.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Is the deck still available once the Kickstarter?
Yes, no, it's been on Kickstarter, but it's available now from her Etsy shop. And one of my most recent, I only did a walkthrough of it a few days ago. So if you go to that one, there is a link to where to get the deck from there. But she did the Lowrider at the beginning of the year, which is a Deckhound tarot.
Yeah.
So beautiful. So she's really talented. So yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Julie, I've loved today. I've really enjoyed having a chat with you. I can't believe an hour and a half has passed.
Yeah, it was a great start to my, well, I've been up since 4:30, but a great start to my my day once the sun has been up. Yeah, thank you. It was so much fun. I kind of like glance at some of the chat, but like something out of the corner of the eye, but yeah, it's hard to follow.
Okay, and Stray Cat says, better hurry if you want that deck. It's selling fast on Etsy.
Oh, really?
It's limited in number.
Okay, thank you.
Again, everybody else, thank you for being here.
Thank
really
you.
Appreciate it. And your comments. Do check out Julianne Victoria's, I was going to say a website, but also a channel, but a website if you want to find out more about her 7 decks that she created in 2 years.
Well, I have a playlist of my decks on my channel too. If you want to see videos of them, you can
brilliant.
Go. Yeah.
So you get a good close-up look then of the tarot.
Yeah.
Next Saturday is a regular cup of catch-up and cards. In 2 weeks' time, I'll be interviewing Joe from the Tarot Guy, and I'll be back, no doubt, in the week. So thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Final words, Julie?
Just have a wonderful day, everyone. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or night, wherever you are.
Yourselves. Go in peace. Namaste. And blessed be.